Hi guys, welcome to another episode of What's on the Market. Apologies for not having one last week. For any of you who watched my other videos, you will have known that my wife had surgery on the Monday, and so that whole week was taken up really sort of nursing her back to health. So unfortunately I didn't put an episode out last week. But this week we are back with a vengeance, and this week I've decided that we're going to have a look at the Armies of the Soviet Union book by Warlord Games. Just to very quickly talk about the Russians as a kind of army you might want to collect. There are numerous companies out there that sell Russians, and obviously Warlord do an extensive range. It was one of the first kind of forces that they brought out after doing the kind of initial Germans and British and Americans. They brought out the Russians as well, and really the range has developed from then on. The amount of figures and different vehicles you can get is just exploded. It's great. Excuse me. Now I thought I'd put a few figures and bits and pieces out just to show you. I've got the Siberian Veterans box set here. They're great. In fact, all the figures on the front are from that box set. 34 multi-purpose hard plastic and metal figures. I think there's something like 3 or 4 metal figures in the set, and then the rest are all plastic, giving you a great dimension of giving some real character to the figures. They're absolutely brilliant. One of my favourites, I think the first one I possibly painted was the Commissar. And just so much detail on him, a real joy to paint. And there's some other great ones. I mean, you can't really have a Russian without a Molotov cocktail, which I particularly enjoyed learning how to paint. That was good. And there's a variety of other figures that come with that, with various armaments. Another one, and by the way, these aren't mine. These are my friend Tommy's that I'm painting for him. But he also bought a T-34. Haven't finished painting it, but got the body coloured down, and the main body coloured down, and did a small conversion to put a pistol in the driver's or commander's hand, and got him on there too. And it's a great model, very easy to make, very quick to make. And very easy to paint as well. So that's the T-34, and those are just 2 of the box sets that are available. My friend Tommy has also recently just got the Winter Russians, which are great figures. Very much looking forward to getting into those once I finish this and everything else I've got to do. But really good range. So if you are interested in Russians and you're thinking, well, is there anything out there? There's a lot out there. Indeed. Obviously the Germans and the Americans and the British are, we expect that there's tons out there for them, and the Soviets very much up there competing with the other 3 of the, I guess, what you might consider the major armies of World War II. So let's have a look and dive into the army book. Okay guys, so we've got the army book here. Once again, I say this every week, but Peter Dennis does a great job with the artwork, as you can tell, and the book is scattered with his quality drawings, pictures made up using miniatures and terrain, some pictures of actual weapons, for example this one, the DP 28 light machine gun. For those who wanted to know, and there's also a lot taken from the Osprey books themselves, which I believe are done by Peter Dennis as well. So lots in this book in terms of the artistic element of it. But straight away we have the what is this book. Again, as I said, it's probably a running joke now. If you pick it up and you're not sure what it is, you will do by the end of the start of this book. What I really like about this is again the history, and now we're starting. Well, now I'm starting to get into the realms of of not really having a great deal of background knowledge on some of these armies, like the Soviet Union, it has been really nice to read through this and to pick up some of that information and find out things I didn't know, particularly things like the Russian-Finnish War. Looking back, it's got about the October Revolution and the Civil War and the Red Army and the purges of Stalin, and so there's a lot of background information that will really help you when it comes to thinking about your army and where you want to go with that. And the timeline, of course, very helpful for maybe helping you to select which part of the war you want to fight. Do you want an earlier war, fight the Polish maybe, or do you want to go sort of from the middle of the war, maybe around Operation Barbarossa, where you're going to be fighting the Germans? Maybe you want to do some winter war with the Finns. Maybe you're thinking end of the war, sort of fighting for Berlin. It's up to you, and it really helps you. Now, getting into the army list, I was absolutely amazed by how much there is in this army list. Obviously, the Russians are known for their vast numbers of men, of infantry, and this book really does kind of reflect that. There are more infantry types or different types of squads and teams in this that you can have than in any of the other books that I've seen so far. I may be corrected later on as I go through some of the others, but I mean, you've got guards units, veteran units, NKVD squads, one that I can't pronounce, but basically it was under Stalin's issued order number 227, not one step back, and there's an army specifically for that, or a squad specifically for that. You've got cavalry, you've got People's Militia, Siberian ski troops, airborne. I love the airborne. The idea of the Russian airborne is great. Get a bunch of guys, sit them on the wing, take off, make sure they're holding on, and when we get to the right point, everybody lets go and slides off the wing and hopefully opens their parachute. I mean, if you thought the normal airborne troops for the other countries were mad, I mean, the Russians just go a step further. It is incredible. Naval squad, partisan squad, scout squads, assault engineers. I mean, there is just a wealth of different infantry units that you could be using in a Russian army. It's fantastic. So I really like that, and some of the army special rules that they've got, they look absolutely brilliant. Quantity has a quality of its own. I believe, I think you get a free squad of inexperienced. So, and within the game, for those who've played Bolt Action, and maybe we'll go over this, when I do some bout reports or whatever in the future, but having an inexperienced squad, you might think is a throwaway of points or even a free squad, but if you can get those squads to start putting pins down, actually they become very effective and can win you battles, and to absorb hits as well. So there's a lot to be said for the Russians and that tactic. Moving on, obviously we have the artillery as usual. Not a huge amount of artillery for the Russians. Fairly good amount, I'd say, fairly average, but not as big as some other armies or nations. And then we move into the tanks. I mean, generally speaking, for a lot of the Russian both infantry, artillery, and tanks, they are each unit's fairly cheap on points, which some of the others aren't. Some of the other armies don't have that advantage. So this, I believe, really gives you a force that you can put out a lot of units in an army. So if you had a 1,000-point army, you're probably going to have far more units than maybe a German army would have, or they may be going for veteran units for very few numbers. You might be going inexperienced or regular and have quite a lot more. So it's absolutely brilliant from that point of view. And within the vehicles, again, there's a nice little section that covers the Lend-Lease and what vehicles would you see under that Lend-Lease program. So that's great. And then moving on, really we've got then the theatre selectors, and the best part about the theatre selectors is some of the suggested maybe scenarios or rules that you could add to give your game the feel of an Eastern Front battle. So the quality of quantity is one, deep snow is another, and frostbite is another, and that's just to name a couple. But each of these have their own little special rules that you could perhaps add to a scenario, to a game you're playing. In terms of theatre selectors, there are a lot of theatre selectors, a lot more than I actually thought there would be. If I'm honest, my knowledge of the Russian front is not great, but you know, just flicking through this, it really does show you that the Russians, you know, a lot went on the Russian front, and these give you a great little feel, all the way from Operation Barbarossa, which you can use for the kind of 39 against Poland, 39-40 probably against the Finns. But again, you know, Kiev, there's the expected ones you expect to see, like Stalingrad and Kursk and Sebastopol. And then there's some other ones that you may not have heard of before, and I really like that about this this army book. So again, absolutely impressed with the Army List book. Highly recommend it, particularly if you're a Soviet player and you're interested in the Soviets. Well worth having a buy of this. And one of the nice things is if you buy it from Warlord Games Direct, you get the figure, and it's a standard flag bearer. Okay, so you got a guy with a flag, you know, and just, you know, you can imagine him standing at the front, leading your men forward. So well worth buying. So that's the Soviet Union Army book, and now we're going to move on to my moment of inspiration for this week. So let's check it out. Okay, so my moment of inspiration for this week. Well, really, when you think of World War II DVDs, films that you might watch with regards to the Russians, obviously Stalingrad, the film itself, is a good one. However, I used that last week, or the week before, with the Germans, and so I obviously try not to repeat myself. However, and I'm sure everybody's already got it on their mind which one I've picked, it is in fact Enemy at the Gates. It just gives a great feel of Stalingrad, what you imagine it would be like, and just the endless opportunity, you know, possibilities to get some scenarios out of this to play. In my opinion, every time I watch this, I think, right, that's it, I'm going to buy a Russian army. Luckily, my wallet stays firmly in my pocket, but you know, this is a real inspiration for the Russians, and yeah, highly recommend it. So so that's my inspiration for this week, and that's really what we've got for this week's What's on the Market. Next week we'll probably have a look at maybe one of the smaller nations, maybe Italy, maybe the French, or maybe we'll look at the Japanese, because I'm painting some Japanese for another friend. So lots on, but I hope you enjoyed this week. Hope you found the review useful, and please check out the channel for the rest of my videos, my reviews, and my progress on the road to Oklahoma City 2016. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon. Okay, until then, take care.